That's my computer, whatever they call that thing they have on a computer. This is something else that stays on my computer all the time. Defend your Constitution before it's too weak to defend you. Yeah, I couldn't sleep last night. Had all kind of solid stuff running through my head about the Constitution and our rights and everything, and then when you wake up and you get out of bed, they're not as strong as they would had you written them down at the time. But I was really thinking very hard about what's going on in Virginia and what could spread from Virginia. To me, the Virginia governor and the legislation over there, they are in non-compliance with the Constitution of the United States of America. What they're doing is an illegal act of usurpation of the authority, and they are encroaching on the national rights of the people. You know, governments become really unstable when they don't follow the rules of the justice, and then that ends up letting our public rights and stuff fly right out the window. You know, trying to control firearms, they don't have that privilege. They don't have the authority. It's beyond even the federal government's authority. All it does is cause instability, injustice, confusion, and that's a mortal disease. You know, that's something that would cause a nation to perish because you have a natural right to possess these long before the Constitution was written. But I can tell you this, the adversaries of liberty, the socialists, would rejoice in it falling. Believe me, they would. I looked up something last night. When you look at the Constitution, well, I want to back up a minute. I get so pissed off when anything comes out of Congress, or D.C. for that matter, when they say, well, it passed constitutional muster. How in the hell would they know? They didn't study the Constitution. They only studied what other judges said about the Constitution, making that judge the law and not the Constitution. Something you've got to know about the Constitution and about law in general. In law, the best evidence, the rule for that states that if you have an original document of the original item or a proof available, it must be accepted as a higher degree of credibility in the courtroom than any other second-hand proof. And the Federalist Papers, people, are the original intent of all the laws that you have in your hands. Now, you know, the framers of the Constitution, they were brought up in an atmosphere of common law, and they thought and they spoke as vocabulary. That's when they figured that the language of the Constitution cannot be interpreted except by reference to the common law at that time in the British institutions as they were when the instrument was framed and adopted. That's why those Federalist Papers come in. They are the original intent. Everything in there. You know, instead of you got these idiots up there, you know, they're trying to debate this thing and trying to see what kind of meaning they can twist or squeeze out of the text, or what they can do to invent against it, instead of conform to their probable one when it was passed. They try to twist every word. That's what's going on in this country, and it's scary as hell. I'm telling you, it's really, really scary. Well, anyway, there were some things I had on my mind. When I looked up, when I was thinking last night, I go, man, I know that James Madison wrote something about the jurisdiction that the government has. And the general government, in Federalist Papers number 14, written in 1787, James Madison wrote, "The general government is not to be charged with the whole power of making and administrating laws. Its jurisdiction is limited to certain enumerated objects which concerns members of the Republic, but are not to be attained by any separation provision of any." One of the problems we have, even in up there in D.C., and you have the same thing over in Virginia, if the judges, people, were not embarked on a conspiracy with the legislator, they would have pronounced the resolutions of the governor over there and Pelosi's laws on firearms, because they are contrary to the supreme law of the land. They are unconstitutional and void of law. Now, all we have in our Congress and what we have over there in Virginia and elsewhere is a tyrannical exercise. They are trying to see how far they can go with this, how far they can go without following the law. And they know that they are butting heads against the Constitution. And they want that Constitution gone, people. You can bet on it. Like I said, not only is the governor over there in Virginia in non-compliance with the Constitution, but so is the federal government. If they don't understand the Constitution, they need to look up the Federalist Papers and read it. That's where the law is. That's where the rule of law comes from. Everything that's in the Constitution was debated and written down in the Federalist Papers. Everything. It did not give Congress the power to pass any firearm laws. If you looked at the first one, 1934, what did they do? They knew they didn't have the right to do anything, so they stuck it in the Internal Revenue Agency. And then they've just conspired after that and perverted the Constitution to add all the other ones, the 1938, the 1968, the Patriot Act, all this stuff. Unconstitutional. Like the domestic firearms law, the violence against women thing. They put a thing in there, it's called ex post facto. They passed a law that anyone convicted of such a thing, no matter what, where, at any time, you were guilty. Even though you paid your fines and your dues and you had all your rights restored. They still think that you do not have the right to have a firearm. And this law dates automatically, all the way back to Adam and Eve. That's the kind of tyrannical stuff that you have going on up in the United States District of Columbia. Those people need to be re-educated. We ought to have a camp over there in Cuba, some places they could go and get re-schooled, re-educated, because that's what's going on. They've been doing this, they've been perverting the law, and the Supreme Court judges have helped in that, or we wouldn't be in this matter right now. Now, I know I kind of hurry along because I only have like 15 minutes, and I don't want to overdo it because it takes an hour just to load up something with 7 or 8 minutes. But that's Fuzzy's brain working today. That's what I got to say. But all they're doing, like I said, they're causing instability, and they're creating injustice and lots of confusion, and that's a mortal disease, people, and that's how nations perish when they start undermining the Constitution of the United States. That is treasonous in nature in itself. You cannot undermine the Constitution. You took an oath to uphold and support it and defend it. If you don't do that, you're an enemy of the state. Pure and simple, nothing else to say. Thanks for watching.